Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am John Brown, and today is episode number 2 of What Really Grinds My Gears. And today we're going to talk about the top 10 things that guitar players do wrong in the studio. And these are observations that I've made not only in myself but others as well. So take these with a pinch of salt. Hopefully you can improve what you're doing when you're going to the studio with these ideas. So number 1, you're not getting your guitar set up for the string gauge you want to use and the tuning you want to use. I mean, why are you not getting your guitar set up before you go into the studio? You really need to do it every single time. If you can afford it, take a guitar tech with you so we can constantly make sure that that guitar is in tip-top shape, so you don't have any tuning issues, you don't have any stability issues, and it's just the best, it's performing the best that it can be. So number 2, now this follows on from number 1, stop using the same guitar if you're going to be playing in multiple different tunings and changing string gauges, unless you have a guitar tech at the studio with you. If you have multiple tunings over the course of your whole album, then don't expect to use the same guitar, change the tuning, and change the string gauge and expect it to sound good. The intonation is going to be completely off, the stability is going to be completely off, and it's going to sound like garbage. Number 3, you're always undercompensating for the amount of strings you're going to need. Now, some genres of music, the dead strings thing is, appropriate for certain parts. But when it comes to technical metal and you want to hear every single note and you want it to be as clear as possible, then you need to make sure that you've accounted that you're probably going to need more strings than you have accounted for. So when it comes to playing rhythms, if you're quad tracking, you're probably going to need one set of strings per rhythm, if not more, depending on the complexity of it. So overcompensate. The amount of strings that you need, that you think you need, double it. Number 4, you haven't booked enough studio time. Now, you think that you can get a whole song tracked in a day. That's drums, bass, vocals, and guitar. Got a 5-track EP. We only need 5 days in the studio. Wrong. No engineer wants to spend 15 hours a day in the studio recording your band. You haven't allocated the time to set up the drum kit, set up the mics, change the drum heads, change guitar strings, get your guitar sound, mic up your guitar sound, get the bass sound, all that sort of stuff. And if you're having a bad day and you can't play your songs very well, then that happens, So the amount of time that you think you're going to need to record it, double it, maybe even triple it, and then that's probably enough time to get a really good product. Number 5, you're relying on DIs and you're not committing on a final guitar sound. And this one is a really big one for me. So I never really understood the mindset of going into the studio with your demo guitar sound, thinking, oh, we'll just get DIs and then reamp it through an amp later so it sounds better. But you play to the amp. Like, when you play through a new sound, your technique adjusts ever so slightly because of the response of the amp. It feels different. The best thing to do is to get a guitar sound that you're happy with in that moment. You play to that guitar sound and then you use the DIs to fix any mistakes that come up later in the recording process. Number 6, you've never practiced enough. If at any point when you're practicing that you think, oh, I'm nailing this now, I don't need to practice anymore, then you're destined to fuck up. Being in the studio is mentally exhausting, and you could just have bad days where you just can't play your songs. You know that you can play them, but you just can't play them today. So if at any point you think, I'm ready to record this record, then you just need to practice some more. Number 7, and this follows on for number 6, relying on editing because you haven't practiced enough. Going into the studio with the mindset thinking, oh, we can Pro Tools that, we can fix that. Why don't you just practice it and try and get the sound that you're trying to achieve? Just a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice and you'll be able to do that. When it's edited to within an inch of its life, it just sounds like a machine, and no one wants that, do they? So number 8, stop getting butthurt if you don't get the opportunity to play your part. Now, with technical metal, because of the little nuances between everyone's playing, it's really noticeable. Like the way that you mute the strings, the time in which you mute the strings, and all these little nuances can really shine through, especially when you've got a really tight riff that needs to be played on point. So that's often why you find a lot of technical bands, the guitar player will play all the rhythm guitars and all the bass in just for consistency. It will sound tighter, it will sound cleaner. So stop getting butthurt if the other guitar player is playing all your parts. You get to play it live still, and you get to fuck it up there, so just don't worry about it. Stop getting butthurt. Number 9, and this one really applies to me. So not trying new sounds because you've already convinced yourself that you don't like that thing. And for me, that was on our latest record. We used an amp that I've never personally liked, and we used a cab that our other guitar player, Ollie, wasn't really a big fan of. So the guitar sound on Phronesis is a PV6534, and I've never really liked how 5150s felt to play. Through an orange cab, which Ollie has never liked either. So we came up with this combination. It was the best sounding thing to our ears at the time. So, you know, in the future, you never know. Maybe there'll be an Axe Effects on our record. And finally, number 10, not allowing spur-of-the-moment ideas. You've got your songs written in Guitar Pro, you've recorded it over 100 million times, and you're convinced that this is the only way that your song can be played. Guys, just allow for some spur-of-the-moment ideas to be put in there. Maybe even a wrong note, something that came, you know, that you played wrong, but it sounded good. Or maybe a pinch harmonic that wasn't quite right, but it was kind of cool. Allow those spur-of-the-moment ideas. Make it human again. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully my insight is helpful to some of you. And, you know, I'll be doing more of these. And as I said earlier, it's not about problems that I just see in others. It's problems that I've encountered along the way as well. Anyway, that's the end of episode 2 of What Really Grinds My Gears. And I will see you next time.